as you all know, a whole lot of people deserve tremendous credit in not only getting this project done on time, within budget. It's a beautiful building, and we had students present at this ceremony. Mr. Messeri from the Board of Selectmen, and Mel spoke also. Eloquently, yes. And we believe that we're right in the middle now of doing the audit. In order to get the full reimbursement, the MSBA needs to complete a financial audit of the project. So it's pretty extensive in terms of gathering all of the paperwork, from change orders to vendors to contracts to actual minutes of meetings. They're actually, over the 2-year project, over 80 different site meetings were held. All of those minutes with the clerk of the works have to be sent to the MSBA. The final number of what percentage we will receive for reimbursement, we expect it to fall in that range of 45 to 50%. And of course that will be applied against whatever is the eligible total cost of the project. And we believe that while the project totally was $18.4 million, or close to $18.5 million, we're hopeful that aside from the added cost of the slate roof,
and I think the relocation,
and the relocation costs, and legal costs, and anything associated in that way will be pulled out. We're hopeful that it is somewhere in the $17 million range, but that will be determined over the coming weeks as we finalize the audit. But getting that $5 million, in talking with Catherine Craven, she felt very strongly that the $5 million clearly represented, they would not be coming back saying we over reimbursed you, that it was the first payment on what will be probably about $7.5 million, I think, total, maybe as close as $8 million.
Yeah, I was going to say, given your participation, I wanted to make a few comments.
I just wanted to add something too. That Representative Jones and Senator Todd did a great job in this, but I also want to give credit to David and Kyle, because David was persistent about this from day one, about this reimbursement, and he pushed hard for it. And I know he and Kyle did a lot of the legwork and a lot of the paperwork to get this reimbursement. And he was telling me a long time ago, and every time I mentioned, I'd say, don't say anything, because I don't know if we're going to get it. But he was persistent about it, and he pushed it, and I think he deserved a lot of credit for that.
I'd like to add that one of the most gratifying things that mainly all the state officials said, especially Catherine Craven and Tim Cahill, was that this school is a model of how to build a school building within budget and not putting any frills in, but building a school that meets the needs of all the kids in a very good fashion. And they said that they were going to take this model across the state and show it to other communities and how they should be approaching building projects. And I know that some people are out there saying, oh, you spent $18.5 million, you're way over budget. I dare anyone to go looking around this Commonwealth and finding someone building a school in the last 2 or 3 years for that much money and getting as much as we got out of that building. In a historic district,
it's not a
exactly.
cinder block construction.
Right. It was a very difficult project. The architect did a great job. Tapei and Associates, the building committee, everybody involved. It was a difficult project to build, to site on that site. And it was exciting to see the kids there. The only thing I was disappointed in, I wanted one of those checks that's like 5 feet long, and it was kind of, it wasn't that. Yeah, Jerry wanted cash. The best thing was the town administrator is trying to get the account number. He's on text messaging, trying to get the account number so we could have the money sent in right away to the account, the town account. But as Dr. Troughton said, it was very exciting, and it was great to be there.
Yeah, we had a great turnout. We had 4 of the members of the Board of Selectmen. The entire school committee was great.
Any other comments?
Are you going to reference the tour?
Yeah, I was going to say next we're going to move on to the
right on the high school. Actually, before the hour before the batch ceremony, Catherine Craven, who is the executive director of the Mass School Building Authority, asked to come out to North Reading to specifically tour the high school. She is very aware, going back a year ago, when all school districts that had submitted more than one statement of interest. Statement of interest really are the key document that was submitted to the MSBA. Statement of interest highlighted what key concerns the school district has about its buildings. And we submitted 3. The bachelor school, the middle school, and the high school. And you will recall, we went through a discussion about this time a year ago into July, because we were asked to pick one.
Right.
And we made it very clear that we saw the bachelor project being separate from our current needs, which focus on the middle school and the high school. And our secondary building committee has done tremendous work in completing 2 feasibility studies on both of these buildings. Last summer, when the MSBA took those statement of interests in, they then selected some schools for in-depth facility audits. Facility audits, not financial, facility audits. And we had a team come out from the state for several days looking at the middle school and the high school and applying their tests from an engineering standpoint to verify what we had in the statement of interest. So it was very clear to Catherine Craven that although the town is receiving, North Reading is receiving a $5 million check for the bachelor school project, we're not finished. And when you start to compare the needs in North Reading against some of the other communities on statement of interest, our high school and middle school come up short. And so having Catherine Craven come out to tour the high school specifically, I think was clearly in recognition of our deficiencies. And she's a quick study. Can very clearly see and pointed out some additional issues. The feeling I got from MSBA is that they're not endorsing wholesale construction of new facilities, and that they want to work closely with communities to solve the problems that are at hand, and to also find creative ways to use the buildings that are currently in place. Which I think the message that you said, Mel, about using the bachelor school as a model, I think the feeling is that they would like to apply it at our other 2 schools, and particularly at the middle school. And so we talked about, or she saw firsthand, deficiencies in our science labs and lack of facilities, the deficiencies in the art program, the deficiencies in overall numbers of classrooms, by looking at modular classrooms and saying, this isn't a solution. Seeing that there's a modular cafeteria, yet we use that for direct instruction, as you saw a class being taught there. Seeing the auditorium being substantially undersized. She went into the locker rooms, downstairs into the locker rooms, and she could see firsthand that the facilities are falling significantly below what their standards are. And the standards are very conservative from MSBA. She stated to us that the statement of interest, which had to be submitted by a deadline last July, of course we submitted ours early on in the process, that she is now going to, the MSBA is going to reopen those statement of interest, and she encouraged us to go back and look at ours and add, because I think she felt we were a little bit we were withholding.
Right.
Based on the audit that was done by MSBA, they not only verified what we had put in originally, but I think they said, in comparison to everything else in other schools, we were probably playing it even more conservative, and then she encouraged us to go back in and take a further look. So I think that's a good sign. Number one, to have her come out directly and look at our school, particularly the high school, and then to have her say to us, you really need to expand upon what you put in, because we can tell that you're falling significantly short. So I'd like to do that, and I think while we put our secondary building committee somewhat on a hiatus here, I think between now over the summer and into the early fall, we probably should pull that group together again and maybe perhaps expand on that secondary building committee to have a broader base of input. The composition of the building committee under the new regs has changed as well.
Right.
And so we need to think about what the state will require in the formation of that school building committee, make sure we have appropriate players. I don't have a crystal ball. I think I don't want to say that because of this we're going to be, going ahead and announcing a high school building project next year. I don't believe that to be the case, but I believe that the phrase that MSBA is using is they want to get schools into the pipeline. We're already through the pipeline and out the other end with the batch project. I think the message, while she hasn't said it in writing, the message is we're getting closer to being allowed to go into that pipeline. And the MSBA is clearly regulating the speed at which schools are coming in and going through.
Right, and I want to comment on two things that she said, but the way it works now, they basically have to come to us and recommend a plan for our school. We can't no longer go to them and say, okay, here's an idea, we want to build this. They're gonna send a team in to work with us. And I agree 100% with David. The indication I got was any opportunity they can. They want to maintain existing buildings, whether that means you tear down a wing, you do this, and maybe, this isn't the project, but maybe at the high school it's add a new science wing or add a new, performing arts wing or whatever it's going to be. But that became clear to me, that I think that's the direction they want to go in.
I mean, for example, when we were touring, when we were touring the science labs, if you are familiar with the C wing where the science labs are, in '89, '90, when the school went through its renovation, there was a chemistry lab and a physics lab, and they're wonderful facilities. However, we only have one of each, and we're running many more sections. The other labs or not even labs, the other science classrooms were created by shrinking space just to achieve a room. And so it was very apparent. We didn't have to tell her, well, take a look at, do you think this space is adequate? And she pointed out, I don't understand, how many kids are you placing in this room? How are you doing teaching? How are you allowing students to have hands-on lab experiences when the only facility is that one chemistry room? And how many classes can you get in there on a daily basis? Where the size of that school in '89, '90, that construction project was based on 540 kids, and we're now approaching 800 students.
The two interesting things she said, which I think reflect well on us again, is, and I know Wayne was pleased with this, she commented several times on how well maintained the school was, and that she was amazed. She said, I've been to schools that aren't as old as this, and you see the water stains on the tiles, you see graffiti all over the lockers, and then someone told her those were the original lockers, and she couldn't believe it. She's like, there's no graffiti, they're painted. The other thing she said was, you're certainly using every inch of space you have at this school. And, this isn't to alarm anybody, but we have an art class that is in the old auto shop. And you walk in there, and there's basically garage doors, and it's a garage. I mean, it's a classroom now.
And it's tight.
And
It's full of students. I've been
right.
in that room when a class is going on, and you can't walk
Right.
around.
And it's certainly not the most conducive atmosphere for an art class. And, I think, in the furniture, in one art room, we have desks that are this high and tilted. We have desks that are this high and flat. We have desks that are this. And she said, I also see you're having an issue with furniture in your classroom.